Welcome to the rootenest, tootenest ever episode of the Campus Comics Cast, where my name ain't Yosemite Sam. Well, actually, my name is Scott Reed, and I'm joined in this episode by...
Josey Mike Atchison.
And for episode 223 of the Campus Comics Cast, we are heading to the Old West to wrangle up some Western comics, including Dead Acre Black Badge and Jonah Hex from All-Star Western number 10. So, Mike, are you, I can't come up with any Western analogy to kind of throw at you as a segue. So I'm just going to say, Mike, are you excited to talk about Westerns today?
You know what, I can't think of a good Western saying either, but any of you hornswogglers out there that don't like it, you can take it up with. That's
right. We'll refund your payment.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have anything except I'm excited for this because it's not often we do something outside of the main superhero genre, or maybe some horror or something like that. But this is a little bit different. Yeah.
So, hey, but I do want to mention that there was an announcement here in the last week. So, you may recall on our last episode, pre-orders, that you had to mention from Ghost Machine that the title that you have been enjoying the most is Redcoat.
Yeah.
And guess what? Redcoat will be adapted for a feature film by Atlas Entertainment with producers attached. So in other words, they have producers that are actually starting the process of working on a Redcoat feature film.
No kidding.
No kidding.
Wow.
So yeah, this came across on Key Collector. So as of November 2025.
Ooh.
So there you go, Mike. How's that make you feel?
That makes me feel pretty good. I think I did miss like issue 9, but luckily I got it online about 2 weeks ago to fill in the gap, but I should have every issue.
Do you have the Geiger 80-page giant?
No, I think I sold that or gave it away.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, guess what? Guess whose first appearance is there?
Redcoat. Yeah.
Redcoat.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't know. You may have missed your window on that one. So
no big deal. I think I either sold it to you or I gave it to Noah, the kid that I give comics to. So I can let him know. Hey, you got a winner there.
If you got it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So all right. Well, I'll check if I have it. I may have stuck it back. If I do, I'll let you know.
Okay.
So.
No.
Why don't we talk about Jonah Hex? You got a little history for us, Mike? You want to introduce us to this character in this storyline?
Yeah. Jonah Hex. I mean, at least when I think about a Western comic, the first character that comes to mind is Jonah Hex. Now, that might be just personal. I know there's a lot of other ones that, whether it be, what was the Marvel one, Kid Colt?
There's Kid Colt or Two Gun Kid.
Yeah.
I don't know who's considered like the main Marvel Western.
Yeah, they didn't have as many at Marvel, I don't think, as DC. But DC had like Trigger Twins and Batlash and Johnny Thunder and Strongbow and Powwow Smith, all kinds of them going back to the 40s. But for me, I cut my teeth on Jonah Hex comics, mostly those that were brought to me by my uncle that worked at World Color Press. So Jonah Hex had his first 5 appearances over 2 different titles. First was All-Star Western, issues 10 and 11, and then that numbering transitioned to Weird War Tales, and 12, 13, 14 rounds off the first 5. So Jonah
But it was Weird Western Tales whenever Jonah.
Oh, did I?
Hex was
You know what? I had it typed as Weird
Yeah.
War Tales.
Oh.
No wonder I said.
But they changed the title though, right? When it switched to a Western.
Yes.
Did they continue the numbering from Weird
Yes.
War?
No,
Okay.
they continued the number from All-Star Western
Oh,
to.
for All-Star Western. That's
We're
right.
definitely tying ourselves into knots now. But saying weird, or you bringing up the word weird, I actually seen an anecdote that I was wondering. I mean, I remember Weird War Tales and Weird Western Tales, and I read an anecdote that Joe Orlando said that between he and Carmen Infantino, they decided, or they figured out that the word weird sold well. So they decided to create Weird War and Weird Western. So suspicions are confirmed. they did it just like, a lot of reasons they did it because it brought in sales. Yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like putting a gorilla on the cover, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So Jonah Hex was created by John Albano and artist Tony DeZuniga, and he's like a former Confederate soldier and a bounty hunter, and he's scarred on the right side of his mouth, and his eye is blind. I don't know what the offhand how that happened. It's told somewhere in his history, his chronology. Uh, but he is a bounty hunter with a personal code of honor, and he protects and avenges the innocent. So the appearance, the whole story about him, what I find fascinating anyway, is that he first appeared in issue 10 of All Star Western, which was the volume 2 iteration of that comic. Volume 1 was a continuation of All Star Comics from the JSA in the 1940s. That ended in 1951 with like issue 57, and then it converted because superheroes were on their way out, westerns and war and science fiction and things like that were on their way in, and so they just changed the title to All Star Western with issue 58, and it ran for like All Star Western. That volume ran for like 62 issues in 10 years, so it did pretty well. It had like continuing characters like the Trigger Twins and some offbeat anthology stories too. So, as far as All Star Western Volume 2, that began in 1971. And it was headlined. I've got most of the issues of this short run under that title, and it's mostly like, El Diablo, Outlaw. It's got some cool Neil Adams covers. Uh, Again, I think the Trigger Twins make another appearance. Powwow Smith. But when Jonah showed up in issue 10, it really carried the book, and he was the headliner for for the entire run, or the rest of the run. So, and then it went to his own book, which, oh no, I take that back. Jonah Hex headlined the new title until issue 38, and that's when Scalp Hunter took over the spotlight, and Jonah Hex moved into his own series. And this was in 1977. So, yeah, and that lasted 92 issues, and
Yeah.
still,
Fairly
yeah,
long running,
yeah,
yeah.
still had Michael Fleischer as the writer, and Tony DeZuniga. He was famous for a lot of his Western work, and I think some horror too. But technically one of the best artists you'll ever see. Just didn't see him in superhero comics.
Just, I don't know, assuming that Wikipedia can be trusted, and that's always a question mark. But it looks like the origin of the disfigurement for Jonah Hex came in the story Mark of the Demon.
Hmm.
So, and I'm just going to read this straight from the Wikipedia page. Enraged that Jonah had killed his son and broken the rules of combat, the chieftain had him restrained and disfigured with the mark of the demon by scarring the right side of his face with a heated tomahawk.
Oh,
Yep. So, but I guess if you want to know the whole story, the mark of the demon storyline.
wonder what issue that was. I bet it's also told in Secret
Well,
Origins,
wasn't
maybe.
that wasn't that a? I thought that was like a trade later on. So let's see here. This says okay, Jonah Hex number 8, maybe. If the
Oh
footnotes are
yes, I think you're
correct.
right. Yeah.
So
Yep.
so there. So if you want to get the origin, there you go. Or at least the origin of the disfigurement.
Right.
That's probably a
Right.
better way to put
Yeah.
it.
That's.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. I'm sure we'll get to it, but he didn't. At the end of that 92 issues of his self-titled run, that wasn't the end of Jonah Hex. He continued
No.
on in another form. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah.
Sci-fi.
Right. Yeah.
Sci-fi.
Mad Max like.
Yeah. All right. So you got anything else introduction-wise you want to talk about for Jonah Hex?
No, I don't think so.
All right. So I guess here's like I say. So when, or do you even remember when you were first introduced to this character? What your first introduction was?
Well, again, I'm not really good at remembering my first book I read or the first time I read a certain character, but I do I would put money on the fact that it was my uncle that dropped off a stack of comics with my grandma, and it was in the right era for that. It was probably the mid '70s, and uh, yeah, so he worked at Sparta Printing, and he brought me comics all the time. So I'm almost certain that's where I got this, because I doubt that I would see it on the stand to pick it up. At least not until like the late '70s, when I was old enough to go buy my own comics, and by then it was just the Jonah Hex title. So I'm sure it was a book that was given to me. And I
Yes,
do.
I have no idea. So
Now, if I were to, I mean, again, it's a guess, but it happens to be. I doubt it was the first one I read, but the one that stands out to me most out of all those Jonah Hex stories I had or comics I had was this issue 14 of Weird Western Tales, and that's the one where he's strapped down to the
yeah,
ground in the desert, and the Rattler's about ready to strike. That that's kind of burned into my memory, so that could have been the first one. I don't know.
yeah. Like I said, I have no clue. I mean, it's even possible that I didn't even become aware of Jonah Hex until like Crisis. I mean, because that was in what
5.
85. Yeah. So I mean, at that point, I would have been 15. I have to suspect that I knew of that character because like even my recollection is whenever I saw him in Crisis, I knew who it was, so it wasn't a surprise or me going, "Who's this?" or
Hmm.
so like. But again, I'm sure that at some point I probably just got some random, issue of Jonah Hex. Now, none of the stories that we read for this episode of the podcast felt familiar,
Yeah.
as if I had at some time in the past, read those before. So it has to be, either later in Weird Western or just a Jonah Hex title that I would have just randomly picked up to become aware of the character.
Yeah.
So it's a that this one's a tough one to me to pin down. Sometimes it's pretty easy to pin down the character, but
Yeah.
since I was always primarily a superhero guy, it almost had to have been, you know, Crisis or I don't know, maybe some other crossover story, or if he was a backup in a superhero book, or who knows what.
Sure.
So
And that's probably where he had his last appearance, was in Crisis as Jonah Hex. I would I'd be willing to bet.
okay, well, was he not part of the New 52 All Star Western?
Well, that was a whole different like that was like retroactive. I mean, that was the New 52
Oh,
universe,
okay.
so I don't know. As far as pre-Crisis continuity goes, I believe that his last appearance, and if I could get a chance to look at his chronology, I can do that,
Hmm.
but I'm pretty sure his last appearance was in Crisis, and then he came back as Hex in his own title, which was more sci-fi, post-apocalyptic. Man, I cannot talk this evening.
You and me
Post-apocalyptic,
both.
yes. Um, but yeah, we'll see here.
Okay. So while you're thinking about that, or while you're looking it up, so as far as your thoughts on this original version of the character, so I'll go first since you're looking that
Hmm.
up. To me, it's kind of hard to imagine that this is the of all the Western characters at DC, that this is the one that would have taken the spotlight. Now, since I have not read a lot of the other DC Western characters, it's kind of hard for me to imagine like, okay, were they even more vanilla than Jonah Hex for that just a couple of little things like him being a former Confederate soldier and having the disfigurement? Was that enough of a differential or differentiator for
Yeah,
Jonah to become the popular one out of that fairly large group of Western characters that they had? So you know, I, those are the only two things that really kind of stood out differently, because I'm sure all of the Western heroes, because we're in the comics code, would have had their certain code of ethics that they would have had to have followed, and whether they wanted to or not, it's just whatever level of justice they wanted to mete out and what rules they would follow. But maybe I guess Jonah was maybe a little bit more violent, possibly than the other ones.
Well, okay, so let's first say that the bar was not set too high. So
Okay.
Western characters prior to Jonah Hex, they all had to have some kind of a gimmick. With the Trigger
Mm-hmm.
Twins, they were early on. I mean, they were like the headliner through almost the entire run of that title, that first volume of All Star Western. And their gimmick was it was the old twin switcheroo. Every story was basically a trick about that's that Trigger Twin and not the other Trigger Twin, whatever. And then you had Powwow Smith, which was, actually no, before Powwow, it was Strongbow. So it was sort of stereotypical type American Native American character, and then you had what was Johnny Thunder, cool name
Mm-hmm.
because it's Johnny Thunder has been the name of a few different DC
Yeah,
characters,
I was gonna
but
say that was a JSA
yeah, but
character, right?
there was a Johnny Thunder Western character as well. But those were all pretty vanilla. But the first thing I think of when I think of Jonah Hex is that he was hideously scarred, and he
Yeah.
just holy moly! I mean, this is like Clint Eastwood on a really really bad day. And I, I mean, they even say that he was inspired by Clint Eastwood's spaghetti westerns. The Man with
Mm-hmm.
No Name or whatever. And he also wore this Confederate uniform, which nowadays would
Right.
definitely be. I don't know you'd ever see a book like that nowadays.
Verboten. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's one of my comments about this character is that he would be in this version problematic for a modern audience.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that's just I don't think we could see a character like this introduced in this way in 2025.
Yeah. Maybe not, but he was. He had that late 2000s, New 52, maybe around 2010, 2011 era with
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Palmiotti and
Mm-hmm.
what was his partner's name? Gray, um,
I don't
Justin
know.
Gray.
I have not read it,
Well,
so
I mean, those guys were like they were partners in writing a lot of times,
oh, okay.
and they had a
So
really
I just know Palmiotti and Casada, and then Palmiotti and Connor. Those are
yeah,
the
yeah,
Palmiotti
Justin Gray, I
pairs that
think's his
I'm.
name, yeah.
Okay.
But they did a pretty good run for Jonah Hex in that era,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, I haven't read any of it, but
Nope.
it makes me wonder just how they did address the whole Confederate thing, and I don't know if it's
Yeah.
that big of a deal, but like you said,
Oh, I think it's
nowadays,
a pretty
yeah,
big deal. I
nowadays,
think it's a pretty
yeah,
big deal now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, the aspersions and the
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't it'd fly like a lead balloon probably, but I just wonder how they did it 15 years ago is what
Yeah,
I'm
and I'm
wondering.
I'm curious. I'm curious to read it. Like I have a note. I'm jumping ahead in my notes,
Hmm.
but it's like okay, so I actually have a sketch from Jimmy Palmiotti of Jonah Hex. So it's like, all right. So if I was going to, like one of our last questions is, well, do you plan to seek out more stories with this character? And it's like, well, if I'm going to do that, I figure what I probably should read is the Palmiotti run,
Hmm.
since I one have a sketch by Palmiotti, and two, it's probably a pretty good
And it's on
run.
the app.
Um, and it's on the app, unlike three of the first five issues
Right.
that that we tried to do for this. Um, so that's like that. That's probably if I'm going to continue. That's probably where I'm going. Uh,
Yeah.
is to that Palmiotti
Yeah.
run. But I think you and I both are from the time frame where, like, when I was growing up and I saw the Confederate flag, what was the first thing that you thought of?
The first what do you mean first thing?
The first thing that you think of when you saw a Confederate flag when you were growing up?
Oh, hillbilly redneck racist.
Oh, really? See, the first thing that I thought of was the Dukes of Hazzard
Oh.
because of the General
Oh,
Lee.
when I was growing up. Okay,
When you
yeah, I
grew
guess
up,
so.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
growing up. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
I guess so. Okay,
So
maybe that's more innocent times. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So it's like so at this point, because this is in the early '70s now. This predates Dukes of Hazzard, but obviously, if moving past this, they can have a TV show that prominently features the Confederate flag. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and that honestly, it honestly took me a while to move away from people who were offended by the Confederate flag. You're just going a little too far. It's just like, that's yeah, you're
Mm-hmm.
just making up excuses or just wanting to be mad for some reason. To kind of flip on that, and it's like, okay, I understand the point. It's like we maybe shouldn't. It's like, to me, it used to mean Dukes of Hazzard. I understand now
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't mean Dukes of Hazzard. It's not the first thing I think of
Yeah.
anymore. So so it's kind of like that transition in from time. So that also makes me think that if I mean, whereas he may have been a former Confederate soldier, even in later iterations, that's not going to be. He's not going to. I don't think he'll have a Confederate code of honor. I guess is what I'm trying to get
Yeah. I
at.
mean,
So
I'm certain that there's nothing in this run that is where he's espousing the South,
hmm
their way of life, so to speak.
right.
I don't think
hmm
that would be any, even in the early '70s, would we see something like that. Um, so I actually think, I'd like to think that there were probably some good Confederate soldiers that were just put in the gray because they had to. They were drafted. Just like
hmm
if I'm reading East of West right now, I read the first volume. I'm continuing on, and that's all about the post-apocalyptic. See, I said it that time. Future of after the Civil War, and that the U.S. was broken into like 7 different nations, and some of the worst characters are the soldiers of the Republic, or of the Union, I should
right.
say. So,
hmm
so yeah, it's we could probably talk at length about this stuff, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
all about what you remember. You're right. I don't. What I said earlier was more about the way it's sort of, and part of it's just multimedia, kind of like telling you,
hmm
and you see folks these days within their. I mean, we're in Illinois, and people got in their. You might see it
Oh
on a
yeah.
flagpole in a yard, or maybe in the back
In a
of a
yard.
truck windshield, back windshield. I'm thinking, do you not know that Illinois was in the Union and not the
Yeah,
Confederacy? I mean,
exactly. Well, it's just like you drive an hour south of here, just south of Paducah, Kentucky, and there's a big giant Confederate flag just south
oh really?
that you can see flying off of the
Yeah,
interstate. Yeah. So, and that's like I said, a little over an hour just south of
yeah,
here. So,
yeah.
um, and I don't think, and Kentucky wasn't part of the Confederacy
It
either,
was.
if I remember correctly,
Oh yeah, it
right?
was. Mhm.
It
Mhm.
was Kentucky was. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
I thought it was too far
Missouri.
north.
No, Missouri even was, but it wasn't until maybe later. It was a territory and then became a state. I don't know.
Uh,
There's have to look at the history of it, but yeah, Kentucky
yeah,
definitely
I'm
was.
gonna. Was it okay? Kentucky was not a Confederate state. Although it declared neutrality at the beginning of the Civil War, it never officially seceded from the Union.
Oh, okay, okay,
Okay,
okay.
so
That
there
that
you go.
makes sense.
All right. I thought it was too far. I thought it was north of the Mason-Dixon line. So I was pretty sure.
But it was
I was
neutral. But
pretty
I mean, you
sure.
think about
Yeah,
states that are
but
parallel
it.
along the same latitude
Uh-huh,
or whatever.
yeah.
Virginia and all them, they
hmm
were Confederate. So
Right. Okay.
okay, we're
I
not a
just wanted
history.
to. Yeah.
We're
No, we're
we're
not a
not.
history
Yeah.
podcast. So, yeah.
Although I
There you
would
go.
like that.
So.
Yeah, we have to do a lot more
Yeah, that'd
studying
be
though.
interesting. Yeah, no, that'd be a whole lot more
Yeah.
work than a comic book podcast. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, what are your
Well,
initial
let me
thoughts
tell you what
on
I
the
found
original
out.
version
Let
of
me
the
tell you what I
character?
found out
Okay.
on the last appearance of Jonah Hex. Happened to
Okay.
be in Jonah Hex number 92. It was his final issue, which was published simultaneously with Crisis on Infinite Earths number 5.
Okay. All
And
right.
then,
So that's the first pre. That's the final pre-crisis
yes.
appearance of Jonah Hex.
And
Okay.
then Hex number 1 came out the following month, sort of simultaneous with the wrap up of Crisis. So, but that
Okay.
was, that was considered post Crisis.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So, what was your question? How much do we know?
So, what are your initial thoughts on the original version of the character?
I think I answered it when I was countering what you were saying, but
Okay.
except that, okay, for I was probably 7 or 8 years old when I first read this character, and I knew immediately that he was different because, you just get a lot of comics put in front of you, or at least I did. I read a lot of books and they were kind of bland. This one, like I said, the
hmm
scar, the,
Right.
he was, by that time, I'm sure I was aware of who Clint Eastwood was. And
Right.
yeah, so I'm thinking that that was my first impression. It was cool, but he also had a good heart, begrudgingly,
Hmm.
and it was fun to read. And yeah, so I can't really going back. My gosh, 40 years or more trying to remember that my feelings, but I'm sure that's kind of how I
Well,
felt.
you were talking about DC reusing the name Johnny Thunder, and I meant to mention this right after you said that, and I
Hmm.
let it slip my mind. But Marvel's done the exact same thing because of one of Marvel's early Western characters. And if I were to read a Marvel Western character, this is the one that I would probably read is the Ghost Rider, who is the one that's on a horse and wears all white, including a mask that's like a almost like a white potato sack looking thing that he has over his face. That later, then we had the Ghost Rider that most people know, the motorcycle riding Ghost Rider. But one of Marvel's early Western characters was Ghost Rider. So Marvel has also done that same thing where they've taken a name and reused it just to probably to maintain some type of trademark or ownership of that name.
Yeah, just to kind of reinvent it, uh, put a new spin on it for a new audience, whatever.
So what do we get about Jonah Hex's origins in these stories? So what are the key points that after these five stories, like okay, we know A, B, and C for sure about Jonah Hex, and we've already talked about some of them. Like okay, we former Confederate soldier, right?
That was,
We know that.
yeah, that was kind of like you can only, some of it's just assumptions because there's really
Mm-hmm.
not much, very little in origin. Former Confederate soldier, we don't know how he became a bounty hunter. You assume this is
Mm-hmm.
around the early, probably 1870s, these stories.
Right.
I know that we find out in Weird Western Tales number 13 that Jonah had a mentor named Wendy
Yep.
Taylor that trained him in the
Mm-hmm.
uses of pistols, but poor old Wendy died in that issue.
Theoretically, would have been probably would have been pre Civil War that he
Yeah,
trained in
yeah,
that.
yeah. So, you don't get much. Not until what you said, like Jonah Hex number 8 or something like that. Or no, maybe it was earlier than that. There was an origin. Whatever you mentioned that his origin story came out. Or maybe that was just the
Well, it wasn't his
branding.
or just
Oh,
the
yeah.
origin of the
Yeah.
origin of the scarring,
Yeah.
is told in that
Yeah.
story apparently. Assuming again Wikipedia is correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you feel like okay? And you've talked about this a little bit, but what's been forgotten? What's changed? What's been retconned that you know of? So obviously, I guess the biggest change is the move to the post-apocalyptic version of Hex as opposed to the
Yeah.
post-Civil War version of Jonah
Yeah,
Hex.
that was less of a retcon and more of just a, change. They put him in a different setting, moved him to the mid 21st century, I guess. I don't know,
Okay.
where it was definitely kind of taking the comic was called Hex, and it was
Mm-hmm.
taking a reading from the playbook of Mad Max movies,
Right.
and being around that 1985 or whatever, that's about the time Mad Max came out, I guess. But otherwise, it was mostly okay. So we get his death story in an issue of Secret Origins.
Okay.
So his uh, Secret Origins number 21, it's probably one of the most memorable Secret Origin stories that I've ever read, because he doesn't even appear as a live person. He's just a stuffed corpse.
Oh.
So it's kind of a crazy tale where, after he died in like 1902 of, I don't know if it was natural causes or not, but he basically one of these roadshow, no pun intended there, one of these people, traveling
Uh-huh.
roadshow things. They brought him around as an exhibit or whatever to show people for money his because he was like Billy the Kid, I mean, in
Yeah.
fictional
Yeah.
terms. And so yeah, that is one I want to get out and reread, that Secret Origins number 21, because that was a lot of fun. Kind of explained. There was a time I remember my dad was a big Western hero fan. The legendary, the Billy the Kid wasn't really a hero, but he was a Western
Right, yeah.
character. But Wild Bill Hickok and
Yeah.
Buffalo
I
Bill
mean, just any
Cody.
story of the Old West. Any story of the
Yes,
Old
yes.
West.
I
Yeah.
probably still have this leather-bound book that he has about Western characters, Annie Oakley and all them.
Hmm.
But one of them, lived until old age, and I don't remember which one, but was on, that was going around and making appearances in the early 19th or in the early 20th century. So this is what this
Yeah.
feels like. This particular issue of Secret Origins. But other than that, I don't know much about what was retconned except that New 52 run. But I think that's somehow you know back in the same era as what we're reading now.
Okay. But okay, so I haven't read any of that New 52 run or anything.
Hmm.
Very little of Jonah Hex at all. So is that New 52 All Star Western, is Jonah Hex the title character
Hmm.
in that series? Okay, all right. So you said like we didn't have any post-crisis appearance of Jonah Hex other than the post-apocalyptic one, but
Oh, okay. So
so that kind of threw me for a loop. It's like, you mean seriously, they didn't use Jonah Hex in the new All Star Western, or but they have.
yeah, I think what
Okay.
I was conflating is that when you're looking, when you do like a Mike's Amazing World search on characters chronological or their appearances and then their chronology, they'll
Hmm.
give you like, well, do you want to know about the pre-crisis or the post-crisis? So there is a
Okay.
post-crisis chronology as well for Jonah Hex, and I don't know, I don't know that very well, but
No,
I don't have.
well, I obviously don't know it at all.
I
So
mean, yeah, I was gonna pull it up, but it takes me too long. I can't talk and look it up at the same time.
yeah, no. Well, I mean, to me, that's like, I mean, Superman. Obviously, there's a pre-crisis and post-crisis Superman, but you wouldn't say that they haven't used that. They haven't used Superman since Crisis. They
Yeah,
have. It's kind of the same name and the same general, set of powers and all. So that was just, I don't know. I just was taken aback by just how you
yeah,
described that. So because you're the DC guy,
yeah. Well, it
so
turns
it's your
out that
responsibility.
Mike's Amazing World of Comics only has Secret Origins number 21 as the only post-crisis appearance. So it's not a complete index of all of his appearances.
Okay.
Especially when you get into the 20, our century.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
2000s at least. Yeah, yeah. All right, so now he's really not most of the time we're talking about superheroes when we do these first five. So we're really so we really to talk about power sets. He doesn't have anything other than to say he's a really good shot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what else? What else do you think would be something that might be listed as a power or a special ability for Jonah Hex?
He can track. He's resourceful. I was reading up on some of this mostly. I don't know this just by rote or by memory, but when I read up some of his history, his appearances later on, he even he appeared in a Batman story, and it was shown that he was faster on the draw than even Batman, and
Okay.
so yeah, he's just extremely skilled, you might say.
Yeah. I guess he did mention that he could see really well in the dark
Oh
in
yeah,
one of
yeah,
these
yeah.
or one of these issues. Yeah.
But his depth perception has to be crap because he's blind in that one
Yeah.
eye.
Because he's blind in one eye, so go figure. So you figure that would make it difficult to shoot, but apparently not. So
Yeah.
he's always having to, turn a little bit to the right so he can use his. Or wait,
Well,
let's
no, I
see.
mean
If
it.
it's his right eye, right? So yeah, he has to turn to the right so he can see whoever's right in front of him.
Yeah.
So
Well, it makes you do wonder though if he was. I have to look now and see what he normally shoots with, his left hand or his right. He probably does
Mhm.
both, but
Yeah. Now,
yeah,
I'll be honest. I did not realize until we read that he was actually blind in that eye.
yeah,
I did not realize that at all. I just thought he was disfigured. I did not realize he was blind in that
yeah.
eye. So that was news to me.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I remember as a kid reading it, I just thought he had this really big gaping,
Hmm.
eye. It doesn't look like
Hmm.
glazed over like it's blind or anything.
No.
So
Yeah. Or Yeah, it's got the dot in the middle, and
Yeah.
so I thought it's just weird looking. But he can still see out of it. He just lost kind of the skin around
Right.
it.
Right.
But yeah, for them to now say he's blind in that eye,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, that's a little. I don't know. I guess you can't really call anything out there for a comic book. But
Right. Yep. Well, Deathstroke's blind in one eye, so.
But he's covered up. Or he always has the patch on.
Mm-hmm.
So even like when you look at his mask just doesn't have an eye hole, or even a spot for an eye. And then of course when he's got the mask off, he's got the patch.
Yeah,
on.
and he's enhanced from the DC
Right.
version of the Super Soldier Serum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know that either one of us can answer this question. Maybe you can, but I definitely can't. So how closely does this version of Jonah Hex match what we see in comics today? So is there anything the same, anything different? Do we have any reference? I don't really have any reference to answer that question.
No, I don't know the last appearance or the last time he's appeared in a comic, except that Palmiotti version in New 52. So, and I haven't read any of that. Maybe one of those. I can't be for sure, but yeah, I mean that's 15 years ago now. So,
So now the one character that has made some appearances in modern DC books is his, I guess it would be granddaughter, Jenny Hex, right?
Yes.
So we got Jenny Hex that showed up in a
Young Justice,
100-page giant,
Oh,
100-page giant Batman book, and then shows up in Young Justice and some other titles as well.
Yeah.
I think she had her own title, at least a limited series, if I remember correctly. So that's kind of like, I guess, the modern, legacy Jonah Hex character that we have in DC now. Of course, I don't remember her anything in the last few months in pre-orders, but
Yeah.
I'm sure she's out there someplace. So
That was one of those Brian Michael Bendis?
Bendis.
Yeah, I think he created her, and it just kind of like it was a cool character, but it never went. She never showed up anywhere else. So I would have liked to have seen her in other comics.
Yeah, I think it could be interesting. And now, of course, it's you have a Western character living in the modern age. I just don't know how well that flies. It was kind of like seeing when we were reading New Gods and oh gosh, and now I'm forgetting his name. The Western-based character from the New Gods. Anyway, him showing up, it just felt a little weird.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Got the guy with his 6 shooters running around. Why can I don't remember his name?
But he had a special gun, special bullets or something.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't believe it's you that.
Yeah. It'll come to us eventually. So.
Yeah.
All right. So moments. What are some of the moments in these first 5 appearances that you would like to call special attention to, Mike? Give me one.
I got a few.
Okay, we'll start with one.
Well, no, I guess I don't have that many. I got 3. One that,
Okay.
one of the redeeming characteristics of Jonah Hex is he's an animal lover. He makes that clear in a couple different issues. One about his horse, and one about the wolf that he sort of Iron Jaws. Yeah. So I like that. He in All-Star Western 11, that betrayal of the woman, where she pretended to be the sister of a guy, the bad guy, and I thought that was a pretty cool little plot. And 12, Weird Western Tales 12, I mean that was the hardest one for me to read because it had that massacre of that Pawnee village, including that young girl named Little Fawn. So,
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the closest you come to a recurring character too is Iron Jaws, who appeared. He adopted. I think he picked up that dog from her, right?
Yep. Yes. Yeah, because whenever Little Fawn dies in the one issue, he promises to take care of Iron Jaw, and unfortunately doesn't do a very good job because then in Weird Western Tales 14, Iron Jaws dies.
Yeah. Yes.
So Iron Jaws wasn't around for very long, but did, and that was like one of the scenes, and it's really more for the absurdity of the scene. So in that issue of Weird Western 14, it opens with Iron Jaws getting bit by a venomous snake, a rattlesnake. Okay, so he takes Iron Jaws to the vet to try to, save Iron Jaws, and then he gets, cold cocked by some Union soldiers. They take him out into the desert and tie him down to let him die in the sun. And old Iron Jaws, despite the fact that he's dying from rattlesnake venom, is able to crawl out into the desert, find him, and let him free, and then die.
Yes.
Yeah, it was just so over the top.
Yeah.
It's like the writer at that issue is like, how am I gonna get Jonah out of this mess? It's like he kind of wrote himself into a corner.
Yeah.
And, I guess that's John Albano. Wrote himself into a corner and just couldn't come up with any reasonable way to get out of it.
Yeah.
So what's another one of your moments you want to call attention to?
Well, that was one of them as well. But for me, it made it my favorite issue, which I know I'm kind of jumping ahead there, but that's other than already the cover I liked, and the dog relationship, the wolf. That's also one thing that you can't really believe, because just if it could see if it was a mixed breed wolf dog or whatever, but just a wolf, that's unlikely it's going to be domesticated, much less be as loyal as what it was. But it made for a decent story despite the far-fetched nature of it. And I think my favorite scene was in that issue where Hex throws that guy out of the doctor's office window, to make room for that wolf to be treated.
Yeah.
So it's not just he threw him out there, but they were cursing out Hex and the dog. Get that mangy thing out of here, whatever. And Hex had enough. He just threw the guy out the window and said, "Doc, now you take care of this dog or this wolf."
So you had mentioned in so it was All-Star Western, or no, I guess it was Weird Western. Oh gosh, I'm trying to get all these issues pulled up here. So the one with the Pawnee Tribe massacre.
Yeah, that was right, Weird Western 12.
Weird Western 12. Okay. So despite the fact that it's terrible. Well, one, it kind of in some ways is truthful, right? Because the whole smallpox thing in trading the blankets.
Oh yeah.
So it's nice. About nice. Okay. So to see that Jonah Hex is going to side with whoever is actually right. That's why he sides with the Pawnee. He goes out and tries to get, something to save Little Fawn because she's coming down with smallpox, and then he returns back to the massacre, and it's kind of funny, and they wouldn't. I don't know. I wonder how they would handle that if they tried to write that same story now, because there it is as Jonah Hex is calling them engines, through the whole story, but he's obviously on their side. So would they, again, that's what makes this a problematic character, or potentially a controversial character if he was written this way today. It's like, well, how is he going to refer to, the indigenous Americans that appear and then, are killed?
Yeah.
It's like, but that was still like, Jonah is not on the side of, he was not on the side of the South. He's not on the side of the North. He's not on the side of the white, or he's not on the side on the indigenous Americans. He's on the side of whoever's right at that moment. Right. Which is one thing that I think helps distinguish this character from maybe some of the other Western characters.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. What other things do you want to mention story wise?
I was looking through some of the notes here. It's like they were really trying to find somebody that could show that he did have a past with that character Wendy Taylor, the rancher that taught him how to shoot. But he died in that same issue. It was very episodic at this point. There wasn't much in the way of, continuing storylines. And I think...
Well, pretty much all of these are part of an anthology, right? Since they're in All-Star and Weird Western, they're all just anthology books where there's 2 or 3 other characters that have a story in that same issue.
Yeah. Yeah, so, Weird Western didn't have... Yeah, Weird Western had, El Diablo. In fact, El Diablo was on the cover of Weird Western 12. Jonah Hex didn't even have and there was also stories with Batlash.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess somewhere down the road, though, I think that there was more of an ongoing storylines. I'm almost
Yes,
certain.
there would almost have to
Yeah.
be. I mean, at this time, you didn't necessarily have the market for multi-issue stories. It was fairly
Yeah.
rare, so you had to have that. Somebody could get a complete story.
Yeah.
In a title most of the time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So you've already talked about your favorite issue. Do you want to go into further detail about your favorite issue, Mike?
No, I mean, like I said, I think that's one of the most memorable issues that I have in my collection. Um, this one here, this one with this Weird Western Tales number 14, because of the cover and because of what I remember about that
Mm-hmm.
striking pose of him being strapped down to the desert. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that Conan issue where Conan was also strapped in the middle of a desert. Uh, I had
Mm-hmm.
that was in Savage. What was the Savage Conan? Savage Tales. What was it?
Savage
Savage
Sword.
Sword of Conan.
Savage
Yeah,
Sword.
yeah,
So that's the magazine
yeah. That was
size
the
one.
one I had
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
Okay.
until my dad
Oh,
confiscated it for reasons.
okay. Reasons. Yeah. Well, despite the harshness of the Weird Western Tales number 12, that was probably my favorite of the issues, just because I felt like it had the strongest
Hmm.
storytelling impact.
I could see that. Yeah.
So yeah, and again, it's that you know Jonah Hex is going to be on the side of who's right, not the side of who pays him the most money, not the side of that matches his skin color. He's going to be on the side of whoever's right in
Yes.
the situation.
Yep.
So, and he's now okay. So at the end of I gotta make sure I got the right issue here. At the end of All Star Western number 10, okay, what movie is that?
Oh my gosh. I have to pull it out and look at it real quick.
Okay, so it's got the young boy wants to run off with him, and he sends him back and just leaves him with his mother, which is what he should
Oh
have done.
yeah.
So what
Oh
movie? What movie is that? Shane.
yeah.
Where the
That's
little
right.
boy's yelling
Yeah.
Shane, Shane as he rides off into the distance.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
I assume that Shane came out before before this story was written.
Yeah.
I don't know that
That
for
was
a
John
fact.
Wayne, wasn't it? No,
No,
Shane
I
wasn't
don't.
a John Wayne
No.
movie.
Let's see. Who was Shane? Was Joe? Okay, Joe Start is the character name. Da-da. Produced by George and starring Alan
Alan
Ladd.
Ladd. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, Shane. That came out in the novel was 1949 and the movie was 1953. So
Yeah.
yeah, that predates. So I'm pretty sure that was kind of a
That that
homage
makes
or
perfect sense. It just
to Shane.
yeah.
I could be wrong, but
No, I bet if
uh,
you had Albano or Joe Orlando around to ask, they'd probably confirm that.
they probably yeah. So I'm just, but that also was kind of a cool scene there. Of course, it's a cool scene in the movie
Yeah.
too. But here, it's like the kid. He doesn't. This kid doesn't need to be going riding around
Yeah.
with Jonah
He
Hex.
was
So
going to be his
he
partner.
he plays the bad guy, right, to get the kid back to his mother
Yeah.
because his mother makes it clear that he doesn't want her son, looking at him as a hero.
Right. And this is the
So yeah.
mother of that child, of that boy. Jonah had given his bounty money to them
Hmm.
because I forgot what happened, but another, you know, he's got a soft spot.
Yeah, yeah, and he's there to help people, even if it costs him. So,
Oh, by the way, it's Seraphin. Seraphin,
Seraphim.
the Forever People New
Oh,
Gods
thank you.
character that's cowboy themed. I know I had to look it up. I can't believe it.
That's no. I'm glad you looked it up because I hadn't gotten around to it yet. So, all right. So here's the question: do you plan to seek out more stories with Jonah Hex now that you have been reintroduced to this character?
Yes, and we're going to cover every issue on our new index show called The Wild Wild West.
That's a solo podcast by Mike Atchison.
No, but I do want. Oh man, I so want to read more and not just look up Wikipedia.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I do want to experience this, and then I want to get into that, like you said, the Palmati run. But
Yeah, I think I am going to sit because I'm assuming that will all be on the DC app.
hmm
So I'm probably going to put that in my I need to read
Yeah.
list. That way, the next time feel like I'm caught up or I want something different, to at least give that a shot.
Yeah.
I'm not committing to reading the entire thing,
Yeah.
but I do want to start it, and because I've been enjoying a few Western titles here recently.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah.
been sort of a. I mean, maybe there's just been a little bit of resurgence of that genre. We in comics, mostly independent publishers,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, I I mean, everything runs in cycles, and
Mm-hmm.
westerns were so. I mean, in the movies and the TV shows in the 50s and 60s, all into the 70s.
Yep.
As a kid, I mean, to this day, my favorite movie is Tombstone. So,
Oh yeah.
I could watch that over and over again. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all about
I mean, you
the.
had good, the bad, the ugly, and
Oh
all
yeah,
the spaghetti westerns and outlaw Josey Wales,
probably.
and then even Young Guns. You remember
Oh
Young
yeah,
Guns?
and the long Young Guns. Yeah, that was like I don't know if it's held up all that well,
Probably
but
not, but
another one I'll recommend is The Long Riders, which told the tale of the James Gang, which were kind of
okay.
local to us, in Missouri.
Hmm.
Uh, what was interesting about that movie is that it featured three sets of brothers. You had the Carradine brothers, you had the Quaid brothers,
Hmm.
and another
Hmm.
pair, you know who I'm going to talk about, Stacy Keach and his brother.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yep. So,
I think I've seen that, but I don't remember anything about it. So
yeah, yeah. So I like westerns, but you don't see them as much anymore. But I'm hoping maybe there's a little bit
um,
of a resurgence.
well, it's kind of like in the 50s and 60s, superhero comics almost died,
Mm-hmm.
and it was because of westerns and horror and the other stuff. And now it's like the pendulum's starting to swing back the other way.
Yep.
So we may see a downturn in superhero stuff and an upturn in some of the other titles here for a while. So
It could be.
I just think people just want something that's a little fresh, and doesn't feel stale. So
Yeah, there was a much panned movie, Jonah Hex, with
with Josh
Josh
Brolin,
Brolin. Yes, which is
yeah.
such a shame because I think it would have made a good movie. I don't know what happened. I haven't seen it even, but I've heard it was really
Okay,
bad.
in my opinion,
Yeah.
it's not that bad
Okay.
because you've got Josh Brolin, you've got the guy from Benton,
From what?
John Malkovich.
Oh,
John
yeah. Hmm.
Malkovich.
Oh, from Benton.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, and it's now it's not really Jonah Hex
Yeah.
because they give him superpowers in the movie, but it's not the worst superhero movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's pretty much better than any of the non-Spider-Man Sony movies.
Yeah.
So I don't think you would be hugely disappointed in it. So if you haven't watched it, I think it's worth watching.
Okay.
It's like a 5 or a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10, I think. So I don't own a copy of it, but if I saw it in a $5 bin, I might grab it.
It's almost like the way you described it makes me think of the Constantine or Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves. It wasn't. Yeah.
It's not as bad as people. Well, they're going to come up with a sequel apparently.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
So
don't.
yeah.
Yeah. I think. Yeah.
And I didn't hate it. So, but I wasn't a diehard Constantine fan prior to seeing the movie.
Right.
Same way with Jonah Hex. I wasn't a diehard Jonah Hex fan before seeing the movie, so I don't have a whole lot invested in that character. And if it's not the character that I was expecting, I didn't have a character that I was expecting.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, while we're here, and since we were talking about movies, westerns, do you want to, before we get into Dead Acre Black Badge, do you want to mention some other Western comics that you've read that you think might be worth reading? And if you haven't thought of any yet, I'll start.
Yeah. You go ahead and start.
Because
See if I can think of something that'll trigger.
So absolutely, one of the books that kind of got me back interested a little bit in westerns was Scotty Young's Ain't No Grave,
Yeah.
which is just a 5-issue limited series. So there's not it's not a big commitment reading wise. So if you have not read Ain't No Grave, not drawn by Scotty Young, just written by Scotty Young, I think it is really, really good.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those that's in that category where I at least own the first issue and have it in my collections.
We read it. We covered it. We read it.
Yep.
And I liked it. Maybe not as much as you did, but it was just that one graphic novel. Or was there?
Yeah, one trade. It's 5 issues.
Yeah.
It's a 5-issue series. Yeah, so I guess we read it in trade, but it's also kind of a western with Greek mythology.
Yeah.
Sort of mixed into it. So it's got this little other element to it that it's not just a straight western.
I can't.
So have you thought of it?
I have, and I can't believe I didn't
got?
think of it right away because it's pretty fresh in my mind, and that's East of West.
Oh,
and
okay.
you haven't read that, right?
I have not read that. No.
It's good.
That's Hickman, right? Or is that Remender?
That is Hickman.
Hickman.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's like a science fiction western set in the.
Okay.
Let me say it again. Dystopian. Well, I was going to say post-apocalyptic, but it's a dystopian future where the Civil War never ended, and and it also incorporates some supernatural stuff with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and death in this story, the embodiment of death, that character or that person or whatever, is also a Clint Eastwood stereotype, archetype, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big commitment, though, reading-wise, isn't it? It's like a 60-issue series.
I started the second volume. I think it might be 60-ish. I don't know. It's okay. If it didn't win Eisner's, it was nominated. But it's really good. It's really good.
Really good. Okay. Now, I've only read the first issue of this series, but it's also on my list of things that I want to come back to. And there's a series, and it's just called Falling in Love on the Path to Hell, and it's set in like the 1800s. So you have this mix of Old West and feudal Japan with a supernatural tilt to it, I guess. So they get those characters from that time period, again, 1800s or even the late 1800s, get pulled in together into this story. And again, I've only read the first issue, but I did enjoy it. It's on my list to come back to. So that might be something for somebody to try if they're looking for a western. So, anything else western-wise?
I thought of Scalped, but I have never read it, so I know it was acclaimed. That was one of those Vertigo.
Yeah, I have that entire run sitting up on eBay right now.
Is that right?
It's been there for a long time because it's not sold.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I should pull out the first issue and read that. I don't know.
Yeah. Or when I'm done with Nexus, you can I'll trade you back for
swap it out.
Swap it out.
All right. Well, you ready to talk about Dead Acre?
Yeah, I think I am.
Okay. All right. So this is Dead Acre. Now, I meant to kind of look up because I believe this is based on a book, like a prose book.
Audiobook.
I could be mistaken. Or is it audio?
I don't know if maybe it was originally prose, but I know it was promoted a lot as an audiobook.
Audiobook. Okay. But anyway, there are 3 writers credits. So you have Rhett C. Bruno. I'm assuming this is Jamie Castle, but it could be Jaime Castle. And then Cullen Bunn. And then you have art by Riley Brown, colors by Ferris Mays, and letters by And World Design, which I assume is a production company and not a person's name.
I would imagine.
So sometimes when I go through these things, I like to, come up with some of the key characters. So I did do that here for Dead Acre. So our primary protagonist is James Crowley. He apparently was killed in a shootout some undisclosed time in the past, but was reborn as an angel of death for the White Throne. All right, we don't get a whole lot of details about the White Throne. It's kind of implied that it's heaven, but I suspect we're going to get a little switcheroo on that if these stories continue. All right, then you have Temperina, who is Crowley's horse. Then you have Rosa Massey, and this is a woman from the town of Dead Acre, whose husband William Massey has gone missing. Then you have Mr. Phelps. I can't remember if we got Mr. Phelps' first name or not in this story.
But
He
bartender?
is the owner of the saloon and bartender at the saloon. All right, where basically the story really kind of starts. And you have Clinton Barnes, who is apparently one of the town's bandits. He's supposed to be one of the bad guys, one of the bandits. He's like the strong man, that he has this he has a secret though, and there are actually several other bandits, rowdies, ruffians that hang out with Clinton Barnes. And I guess I should probably throw in there Mr. Massey, not William, but William Massey's father, who is the father-in-law to Rosa Massey. Okay, are there any important characters? I mean, we could talk about the preacher and some things like that, but are there any other important characters that you think I'm leaving out that you really need to kind of know as we're kind of going through this synopsis?
I don't think he's named, but that young American Indian or Native American boy seemed to have a bit of a role.
He does, yeah. And I do mention him in the synopsis, but I don't think they gave him a name, so I just left him out
I
of
mean,
my
I'm
key
just kind
characters,
of like going by memory here. I read this
Yeah.
a few weeks ago, didn't take notes, and then I just did my reread this afternoon. So,
Oh, okay.
and I took
So
a
it
few
should be
notes.
relatively
Yeah.
fresh,
But I can't think of. I just don't think of any other names though, other
Yeah,
than
okay. I mean,
so
there
the
are some
angel.
names. The angel, which is Shargraphine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he calls her Shaw, or does he call her Shaw or Shag?
Shar.
Shar. Okay, so there you go. And apparently the angel doesn't like being called Shar, but yeah. All right, well, let's just dig in, and you can. I'm just going to keep going on the synopsis, just go through the whole thing.
Okay.
It may take me a minute or two, but if you wanted me to pause at some point, because there's something that you're just dying to comment on,
Okay.
then just feel free to interrupt me.
Alrighty.
Okay. All right. So our story begins as we witness the death of our protagonist, James Crowley, at the hand of approximately 10 men in a typical Old West shootout. All right. Now, some undisclosed amount of time passes, and we join Crowley as he rides into the town of Dead Acre, a small, dusty western town that has its own permanent gallows, and that's supposed to tell you a little bit about the town. Crowley scares off a child, the child that you mentioned, which is unnamed, as he rides in, presumably because children recognize when something is off about a man. Crowley enters the town saloon, which is owned by Mr. Phelps, and despite the protestations of some of the townsfolk, gets information about a woman sitting in the bar, Rosa Massey, whose husband William has gone missing. As Crowley speaks to Rosa, he learns that several graves in the town have also been dug up. Crowley offers to help Rosa find her husband, stating it is his job to care for what's happening here. After some fisticuffs with Clinton Barnes and some of the other men of the town, Crowley gets a room for the evening. In his room, Shargraphine, an angel of the First Order, appears to Crowley in a mirror and informs Crowley that this region is near a hellmouth, a hotbed for hellish activities in the region. And that is thus why he's actually here. He kind of thought that he was maybe there for Rosa, but he's going to help Rosa even while he is apparently completing this mission for Shar, which is more to do with the Hellmouth.
Mm-hmm.
Crowley prepares for what lies ahead by loading his guns with silver bullets, something even he must wear gloves to do. And I think that's supposed to tell us a little something about his nature, that he's not pure, right? Because if he was pure, he'd be able to handle the silver bullets without any problems. That also gives us a hint about where this story might be going when anytime there are silver bullets involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as Crowley heads towards the Hellmouth on foot, he flashes back to the day he died and how he was saved from his fate by Shargraphine. Arriving at a church, Crowley is led by a dog into the cemetery and then to a pool of blood. Crowley then divines to see the victim was apparently killed in the church, and we see skeletal hands grabbing at William. And we learn this is William because Crowley finds a finger with the ring, and on the ring there's an inscription, W and R, which presumably stands for William and Rosa. Crowley again encounters the boy from when he first came into town, who informs him he should not be there, and then he leaves. Crowley heads to investigate the church for additional clues about the death of William Massey. He questions the preacher, who informs Crowley that Massey was there the previous evening for prayer, but after the preacher went to retrieve his Bible, Massey was gone. The next day, Crowley heads to the Massey homestead and informs Rosa and the senior Mr. Massey that he suspects William is deceased. Upon leaving the Massey homestead, Mr. Phelps comes riding in with flowers for Rosa. So obviously he's making a play for Rosa. Mm-hmm. Then suddenly, Crowley's vision goes black. After another flashback to Crowley's death, Crowley awakens in a metal cage surrounded by Clinton Barnes and some of his crew. After some discussion about Massey's death and the bandits claiming that they did not kill Massey, the bandits plan to cook Crowley in his metal cage. To escape, Crowley swings his metal cage and is able to grab a sharp bone from a nearby skeleton, but as he touches the bone, he divines that this individual was killed by a werewolf. As Crowley then escapes his cage and the cave, he witnesses the bandits transforming into werewolves. Outside, the pack of werewolves is attacked by some of the local indigenous people, whose tribes includes skinwalkers, aka the child and the dog are actually the same child that was there when Crowley comes into town and warned him off in the cemetery and took him to the pool of blood. So that's all the same individual, just as a skinwalker. After some additional fighting, Crowley leaves the wolves for the tribe to finish off. Back in town at the bar, Crowley encounters Phelps, Rosa, and Mr. Massey, that's senior. Crowley questioned Phelps on how he knew Massey was dead. Phelps admits to killing Massey and then takes Rosa by gunpoint to the town cemetery with Crowley in hot pursuit. Phelps then reveals that he is a necromancer and animates some of the buried dead. During the battle, Temperina joins the fray and helps to defeat the skeletons as Crowley follows Phelps into the church. While they fight, Rosa stabs Phelps in the back with a cross, ending the threat. Crowley is then instructed to head south on his next assignment, but not before visiting Rosa, who offers to travel with him. Rosa wants to head east to find her father, but Crowley is going south. The end.
Great job. That was a good synopsis.
All right. Well, hey, I wrote it myself.
Yeah, I could tell.
And I didn't stumble on any of my massive amount of typos that I had in my synopsis, so I was actually pretty happy about that. All right. The first thing, and I just want to get this out of the way. Did you notice the terrible printing error?
Oh my word! That's one of my comments.
Okay, all
yes.
right. So I don't know what page number,
it's about
but
halfway through.
Yeah, it's whenever he first meets the senior Mr. Massey.
Yeah.
So they printed the pages in the wrong order, but the word balloons are in the correct order.
Yes.
So you see the word balloons are on the wrong picture. And it's funny because when you look at the word balloons on the second page, you can see where like the outlines of the box are supposed to be and where they're supposed to be talking. So you like kind of have to, read the second page first and then look at the picture on the first page.
Yeah.
And then vice versa. So yeah, the editor here really dropped
Oh
the
my
ball
gosh. I was in my notes. I put
one.
Inexcusable. I mean, that is not a single word misspelled or something like that.
No,
that is just terribly sloppy.
It's like an Elf, where the guy comes in and complains about the last two pages not being printed and like, is this your initials on this page?
Yeah.
It's like, who was the editor that missed that one? So
man.
Okay, so I want to get the negative out, the worst negative out of it.
Okay.
All right. That was the only really terrible, printing error that I saw in the book. So if there was another one, I missed it, so I didn't catch that, but I did catch that one. So, all right. So where do you want to start discussion-wise, Mike?
I basically have bullet points. First of all, my first thought was that this was really visually well done. really stunning artwork. I don't know this artist really by name, but I thought it was well done except for the printing error. And
Yeah.
honestly,
That's not the part of the
yeah.
artist.
And since we just talked about weird Western tales, it felt like this could easily have been
Oh
titled
yeah.
Weird Western Tales or something like that because it mixed horror with Western. So yeah,
Yeah, so that's one of my notes is like I think what I have decided is that, the westerns that I have been enjoying that I've been reading recently are westerns that have a bit of a twist.
hmm
So they're not pure, old west shoot 'em up, you know, high noon type
right,
stories. They have a twist. So um, you know, Ain't No Grave, it's got that Greek mythology mixed in it. This has, some supernatural. You got some werewolves, some supernatural mixed into it. The Falling in Love on the Path to Hell, that has, again, I don't even know what is going on in that one yet because I haven't read past the first issue. But there's something, world travel or something happening in that story. I know it's up to at least 10 issues,
yeah,
so I'm like way behind on that one. But yeah, I thought that that helped my interest because it was a western, but it's like it's a western with something else in there.
yeah. I sort of like caught myself judging this, knowing that it was an audiobook before, and that a lot of the readers were probably people that listened to the audiobook, but I was judging it in a lot of ways about how accessible it was to a new reader, someone new to the story, and
Mm-hmm.
it was. I mean, Cullen Bunn's he's not a newbie. He knows how to do this. He's done a lot of different
Yeah,
types of
a
books.
lot,
Yes,
a lot of
and
stuff. Yeah.
it's it's good work by him. He really gives an authentic voice to these characters. It's not if you remember back in those Jonah Hex stories, you had the writers at the time seemed to think that all Western characters sounded like Ma and Pa Kettle. They were like
Uh huh.
really hillbilly backwater slang, and it. I don't know that it was like that for everybody. So but again with the art, there were good angles.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it felt
Oh
really
yeah.
cinematic. I
Mm-hmm.
just really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the artwork was outstanding. Um, Yeah, it was really good. Lots of very expressive. I'm like, look at this thing where Clinton Barnes is punching James Crowley. I mean, you can see the contortion on his face
Yeah.
from taking a smack to the face, and then Rose is screaming at him, and it's just yeah. There's a lot of work done just in the art. I mean, this is pretty to look at,
Yeah.
and you can tell it's good art storytelling because you can kind of just without reading a single
Mhm.
word, you can just kind of look at the art and you can pretty much figure out what's going on
Mhm.
in the story without reading a single word
Yeah.
balloon. So because it's very well done. So yeah, Riley Brown did an outstanding job on the artwork
Yeah.
on this.
It wasn't overly narrated. It wasn't relying completely on dialogue either. It
No.
just the Cullen Bunn let the artist do a good bit of the
Mm-hmm.
lifting. I mean, of course, there were those obligatory tropes like the Rosa, the damsel in distress, the pretty
Mm-hmm.
woman, and the barkeep conversation.
Yep.
The Western guy coming in town, the gunfighter coming in town, and what's going on here, and it just felt. I don't mean like tropes in a negative way. There's a reason they're
No.
tropes. There's a reason people.
Yeah.
It's the same reason that people read books that have the same kind of plot over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
just different titles and different characters.
Yep.
Um, I think of like Louis L'Amour westerns.
Oh yeah.
They're just comfort food basically, and I think that's what this really
It's
was.
like the Hallmark romance
Yeah,
or the
right, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yes,
The fantasy story and like a
yeah,
Dungeons and Dragons
yeah,
style environment. So
exactly,
yeah, you get things that you like, and it's just stick with
yeah,
it. So if it's not broke, don't fix
yeah.
it.
No, I mean, yeah, exactly. There was a couple scenes I was like, wow. I mean, okay, so it was kind of funny seeing him argue or kind of banter with this angel, what
Yeah,
handler would you call her?
yeah, I,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's the angel that saved his life, but yeah,
yeah,
it's like responsible for putting him on missions and
yeah,
such.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and you get this. you get this whole, there's like this politics thing going on in heaven or the white throne, where like she wants to be the next Gabriel. So in this world, Gabriel is a position, not an
Sure,
individual.
right, yeah.
And apparently Shar has been passed over.
Yeah,
to
she's
be
kind
the
of
next
bitter about that,
Gabriel
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
so she's
politics
aggravated.
everywhere, you know. There's
Yeah.
like, man, you know, and she's kind of like disgruntled about that. I I found that to be kind. It's kind of like she was the Charlie from Charlie's Angels, you know.
Yeah, there you go.
Um,
I also like the line where he is changing. He's like, but it still feels wrong to be naked in her presence.
yeah. You know, in that same, I think it was that same scene or those same few pages where you see the bullet holes
Scar.
from his death,
Yeah.
you know, that he was resurrected from, and so these bullet holes go. Some of them you can see straight through. It's just bloodless bullet holes, and it's pretty cool little touch, you know, because he is a more immortal. Even though when they were trying to cook him over that fire, yeah, he could have been. He can go through. He can feel pain. He's kind of like Redcoat in that way, you know. He can feel the pain, and it the worse it is, the longer it takes him to recover or to resurrect.
All right. Okay. I only have one big revelation
Okay.
in this. I don't have a whole lot of notes, and I've got one big revelation. So I want you to turn to page 3. All right. And you have this scene where this is the flashback scene at the beginning of the story, where you see the woman that Crowley is apparently, you know, she's being held hostage, and she is the woman that is what draws him out, you know, to end up getting killed.
Yep.
All right. Tell me what you think about this woman. Did you have any notes about this woman or anything related to this woman?
I mean, could have been Rosa.
Okay. Well, you're close.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you who this woman is. This woman is Rosa's mother.
That's right.
Because now it doesn't say this, but you know, we do not know how much time passes from him dying to him showing up in Dead Acre.
Yep.
All right. So Rosa does not know who her father is, wants to go east to find her father, and if you look at their appearance, it's very similar, the appearance of this woman on page 3 to Rosa's appearance, at least in my opinion. So I'm just going to call it right now that this woman is Rosa's mother and Crowley is Rosa's father, because they had a relationship prior to him being killed in this shootout.
Was there something was there some reference to that in that last few pages too? Maybe not that direct, but
but I mean there was
oh, here's what she says. She says, "Do I know you? I know you, don't I?" And he says, "Only if yesterday counts." And she says, "No, it was you, wasn't it?" And he says, "I think you've lost me." And she says, "That day when I was just a little girl, an outlaw named Ace Riker decided he fancied my mother, but you turned on him and started shooting. We saw you get shot as we ran. My mother thought you died.
Yeah.
She thanked her hero every night before she passed." And then they talks about, "You haven't aged a day." And he says, "Snake oil does wonders."
Yeah, so I kind of forgotten about that.
So I think that might have been a little bit of a hint, or maybe just was in the back of your mind. Yeah, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you know, I hadn't really.
That was one of my first notes.
I didn't even.
That was one of my first.
But
notes.
I didn't put that together with that first scene. I thought it was just some unrelated encounter. So. No. Well, I'll be darned. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so that's my prediction.
I think you might be right, Cullen.
So I'm gonna you know, I don't know if I were to actually read the book or listen to the audio book that they'd go into, you know, more explicit detail about that, or if that's something they're saving for a future story. Who knows? But yeah, that's my big prediction for this story, where it's heading.
That's another thing.
So I don't think we've seen the last of Rosa.
No, that's another thing. I think I'd like to maybe listen to see if I can find that online or find it on what is it?
Audible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. You find it on Audible or Libro FM if you don't want to support Amazon's monopoly on audiobooks. It's probably on Libro dot
Or
FM
even
as well.
Hoopla.
So.
The libraries have
Oh, okay,
audiobooks.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, our library is just switching over at where I work to because we used to use something called I can't think what it's called now, but anyway, we're making a change to a different system because
Okay.
the one got bought out or is going down. So there's lots of different library systems for checking out
Yeah.
audiobooks. So yeah, I'll have to keep my. I'm glad you mentioned that. 'Cause I hadn't, that thought hadn't even crossed my mind. The only thing I thought about was buying it.
Yeah.
I could check it out.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's something I should do more often. I do look on Hoopla once in a while before I go onto like Comixology or something to look for something digital. But
right.
something else I want to comment. Timperina, that's his horse.
Of course,
And
yes.
Timperina really kicked butt there at the end. I mean, took out,
That's right.
I didn't really expect to see that. I didn't expect Phelps to be a necromancer and then all those
No.
skeletons. It felt like it felt like an episode of a video game, where these monsters just keep coming at you and they're not, individually, they're not much, but there's so many. And finally the horse comes in and just starts stomping them.
I like too how technically, sometimes you like a story where you want all the pieces to come together and have one, like there's one big bad,
Yeah.
at the end. But in actuality, in this one, the werewolves is a separate story from,
Yeah.
William being killed. So those are two different stories that just happen to be resolved by the same guy
Yeah.
in the same location. So I kind of felt like that was a little different.
Yeah.
Because most of the time it ends up being it's all tied to one guy.
Yeah.
So it was, I guess it was a way for them to show that Crowley is going to be independent in some ways of what it is that Char wants him to do. It's like, okay, she wants him there to take care of the werewolves, but he is going to take care of, this woman that he encounters, Rosa, just because. Now, we ultimately don't know because Char never says explicitly why he's there.
No.
Could it have been both? Could it have just been one or the other? It's hard to say. So.
I mean, I'm willing to listen or read more. It
yeah,
feels like
it's
it's going to
definitely
be
interesting.
very episodic. With, do you think of like David Banner, not Bruce Banner / David Banner, in the Incredible Hulk's TV show, or Walker Texas Ranger? They just wander into town and they deal with the most recent issue.
Yeah. So, all right. I don't know. I really, other than grading it, I don't have a lot of comments. I don't have any other
Yeah,
comments.
I mean,
what about you? You got anything else you want to talk about with it?
I thought it was a good touch that pastor was so creepy.
Oh,
I expected him really to be the bad guy before Phelps, and maybe that was the red herring. Maybe they wanted us to feel that way, but
yeah.
it was.
He reminded me when I was reading this of there's a preacher in Hellboy in they just did a movie for it.
Oh, I can't help
The
it.
Crooked Man.
Crooked
Yeah, the
Man.
Crooked
Yeah.
Man.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a preacher in that story, and so as soon as he goes to this church, it's in the middle of no place. I'm immediately thinking of,
Yeah.
the Crooked Man. Because now in Crooked Man he ended up being a good guy. Here in this he's not really part of it.
Yeah.
It's just he's just happened to be part of one of the scenes. But that's what it made me think of just because of the situation.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, you want to give it a grade?
Yeah. I'll give it a grade. I
Okay.
can go.
You want to go first? You want me to go
You
first?
want to go first?
Okay, so I definitely want to pick up more of it. It's not something that is going to be in that must-own category for me. So I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go just below that. So I'm going to give it a 7.5, which is what a very fine minus. So I think it's pretty good. So if you are even remotely a fan of westerns, or think you might be a fan of westerns, I think it's definitely worth picking up, and trying out. Now, the only downside is you can't just pick up like the first issue. You've got to pick up the whole trade because it's a graphic novel, not an individual issue. But the artwork, even if you don't like the story, just looking at the storytelling through the artwork may make it worth that price.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna go 7.5.
I think. I mean, I could go 7.5. I could go 8, but I really don't think. I'm not as big a fan of this mixed genre of the horror. I am at times, but not like when we watched when we read Once in
Mm-hmm.
Future,
Future. Mm-hmm.
it got off track too soon for me with the horror.
Yes.
I think I could get. I mean, the least interesting parts of this book was the werewolf fight. I
Yeah.
didn't get much out of that. It could have been maybe one page and not three or four like it was.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm going to give it a 7.0. It's a fine
Okay.
slash very fine.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not too far. I mean, we're not too
Yeah,
far off. So
yeah,
I mean, we're right there at the same. So again, for me, that category, that value of 6 to 8, is something that I'm going to say, it's definitely worth reading. And if you're a fan of that genre, you absolutely should read it.
hmm
I don't regret reading it, and I'm interested in reading something further, especially by this creative team.
yeah,
So,
yep.
all right, I think that's going to wrap it up for us, Mike. Is it? Are we done?
I guess we are, Scott.
Okay. Yeah, because we've been talking for a little while. I didn't realize we're cruising in at an hour and a half right now.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
so that's not too
it's
bad.
just
So.
it's nice to get off, out of the comfort zone of superheroes or
Hmm.
whatever, and as I like the idea of a themed episode where it's the westerns and
Yeah.
yippee ki and all that.
That's Die Hard. That's not.
Well,
That's not.
maybe it was surely some Western
Oh
guy
yeah,
said that
it's
first.
well. I think in Die Hard he's referencing you American cowboys. What do you
Okay.
American cowboys
Yeah,
say?
maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yippee.
Just leave off the other part.
Yeah.
So I don't want to edit that.
You are. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
I'm not gonna say it. So you have to do more.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. So all right. So Mike, anything happening on the road show?
Wow, it's been a good month and a half or two of me catching up. I think I've got 3 episodes out in the last 6 weeks, and I appreciate you because you got to do the work of putting it out there. I got the last episode was it was a shop in Dothan, Alabama that was a really cool shop in a antique mall. Met a guy named Tim down there, and it was called Night Vigil Comics, and he recommended a book that I mean, it's probably the most expensive one I bought for the roadshow. It was Conan the Barbarian #1, but it was worth it. It was worth it, and he was a really cool guy. And there's a whole, I don't want to spoil the story behind it, but it's worth listening to. And hopefully we'll have another one out. Should be done editing in the next week or two. So we'll see.
And Mike, if somebody wants to reach out to you beside podcast at bergcomics.com, how might they do that?
Well, you can reach me at Mike at comicshoproadshow.com, and you can join Mike Cathro in the people that email me that club.
That's right.
And you can also reach me on our Campus Comics Cast Facebook page. And I have been trying to get better at checking, switching profiles and looking at that page. So yeah, that's the ways.
All right. And I'm Scott Reed. You can find me at bergcomics.com, BURG comics.com, where there are links to my social media pages and eBay store. And we'll be back with our next episode, 224, pre-orders for December of 2025.
Welcome to the rootenest. Oh, man, I was so excited about this one. Okay, rootenest, tootenest. Does that sound right? Yeah. Rootenest, tootenest. Okay, all right.